So our next guest that we have is named Luis Naranjo, and Luis is a passionate birder and naturalist, and holds a PhD in evolutionary ecology from New Mexico State University. He has been a professor and a researcher in California and Colombia for nearly 20 years, and the director of international programs for the American Bird Conservancy for 2 years. He's worked on a wide range of ecological settings, everywhere from temperate deserts to moorlands and cloud rainforests, tropical rainforests, mangroves, mudflats. So you can tell, quite a wide variety of habitats. Today, we are excited to speak with Luis, and he is also an enthusiastic spokesperson for conservation in Colombia, and has authored over 155 scientific papers and books, and also writes a monthly column for the general public on natural history and conservation. And in 2018, Luis was also elected as a correspondent member of the Colombian Academy of Exact Physical and Natural Sciences. So I am thrilled to bring in Luis to join us. Hello, how are you?
Hello, Lizzie. Nice to see you, and nice to join the Global Biodiversity Festival.
Yes, we are thrilled to have you here today and are looking very much forward to learning from you.
Thank you. It is very exciting for me to share with you some reflections and some ideas, and to celebrate this important day for all humankind.
Yes, absolutely. Now, before we begin, do you have a screen you're going to share?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, I have a presentation to guide my speech, so
Excellent.
I'll be pleased to share it.
Excellent.
All right, so here it goes.
All right.
Just
Did you click the share button that's in our, oh, yep, I see it here. Perfect.
all right.
All right.
So,
Here we
and
go.
you can hear me well.
Yes, perfect.
All right. Thank you very much, and thank you to all the people that is still this time of the evening in this fantastic festival to celebrate biodiversity. So, as Lizzie was introducing me, I'd like to repeat a few things. I am an ornithologist. I was trained professionally as an ornithologist, and more than that, I am a very passionate birder, which means that during most of my life, I have spent my time looking upwards, looking to the skies, looking into the canopy of the trees, trying to see as many birds as possible, and having a permanent thrill about all the biodiversity that I can see around me. I am fortunate to have been born in the world's richest country in terms of birds, Colombia, and therefore I have had the fortune to really enjoy every single day of my life looking for birds, trying to learn from them, and trying to capture all the wonder that is around them and how birds can connect with the rest of the world. So it is, I am sure, unnecessary to explain you why I am fascinated with birds, and why I have spent so many years studying them. But just by looking at these fantastic creatures, I have had the chance of traveling around quite a bit and enjoying all these fantastic creatures, and of course of enjoying all the geography and all the fantastic landscapes where I have been looking for birds. For instance, this is a view of one of the most iconic places in Colombia, in the transitional zone between the Orinoco Plains and the Amazon. where I had the fortune to be participating in an expedition to document the biodiversity of this fantastic area while we were trying to designate it as a protected Ramsar site. So this is why I have spent most of my life going after birds, because they give me the opportunity of traveling around, of being in such fantastic settings, and of course, not only discovering new birds and learning about their behavior and their ecology, but also to learn about quite a few other things. Birds have given me the opportunity to learn about ecology, to learn about behavior, to learn about evolution, to ask myself thousands of questions all the time, and to become a naturalist. Really interested in learning as much as I can about nature around me. But even with so much fascination that I have had about birds, and all the interest that I have had in learning about new things and discovering new creatures around me, there was something that somehow remained hidden to my senses. During all my life, I remained oblivious to something that was really, really evident, only that my senses were not capable of really discovering what it was. Until I had a fantastic opportunity to discover it. Nowadays, I live in this place that you can see in this picture. I live in a rural area near Cali, near the city of Cali, Colombia. This is a very special neighborhood, as you can see. All the houses of my neighbors and mine. I live here in this house right here. We are in the middle of a recovering forest. We are trying to regenerate. We are trying to restore the foothills of a national park that is very close to the city of Cali, and I am very lucky to own this little piece of land here, and to enjoy this great place. But because of all the work that I have to do and all the travel that I have to do, I really didn't have much of a chance of enjoying my surroundings as I should, because I had to go other places until the pandemic came a little bit more than a year ago. And as all of you who are listening to this talk uh, will understand, I had to remain in my house, and I have been here in this house for the whole year. And somehow this was a gift, a very special gift, because it gave me back something that I had been losing. This gave me the opportunity of slowing down, of looking around myself, and trying to learn from what I was seeing in front of my windows. Of course, I was always looking for my birds. I have been always watching through the windows, trying to see every single bird that comes to my garden. But while I do that, in good company, as you can appreciate, I started to take notice of some other things. Looking at birds, I started to pay attention to many, many other things, as I have always done. But slowing down has given me a very special way of doing it, which is trying to pay closer attention, trying to take note of every single thing that happens before my eyes, and trying to connect the dots. I have been, for instance, paying attention to the flowering events of all plants in my garden. I have been very, very interested in the phenology of plants in my garden, the flowering, the fruiting of every single tree, shrub, and herb around the garden. I have been trying to identify as many small creatures as I can. Of course, my eyes are always poised to the canopy of the trees, as always, trying to see as many birds as possible. But living in a biodiverse place like the place where I live gives me the opportunity of finding many other things. I see lots of insects, lots of butterflies and beetles and all kinds of insects, all kinds of other arthropods, spiders, scorpions, millipeds, all kinds of little creatures that at other times in my life had remained a little bit hidden from my interest because I was always in a hurry trying to either to do to do my job or to pay attention to my birds. Slowing down has allowed me to pay attention to all these creatures and learn from them, and of course to pay attention to the interactions of all these little animals, all these little organisms with plants and with each other. So, in other words, the past year and a half or so has been for me like a renewal of my uh, lifetime commitment to learning about nature, to learning about biodiversity. And this has been really reinvigorating because I have not only learned a lot of things, but I also rediscover the pleasure and the gift that is in observing biodiversity. And yet, even with all that renewal of my interest, I still was oblivious to something that was uh, just below my feet and I was missing. Until one day that I was looking for some information in the web, I happened to run into a website of the University of Wageningen in the Netherlands, where a researcher was displaying a series of drawings of the root systems of a good number of plants. And when I saw those pictures, it was really mind blowing to see how different were the root systems from the part of the plants that was above ground. Really blew my mind. If you look at this picture, for instance, you will notice that no matter what the aspect of a given plant is above ground, it doesn't have anything to do with the volume, the size, the shape of the roots underground. It is a totally different world. It is something sorry, impossible to imagine. So, looking at this, looking at how different the root systems were from the vegetation above ground, made me think all of a sudden, how would my garden, this is a picture of my garden, how would my garden look if I had the capacity of looking underground? What is hidden below my feet in my garden? What is going on down there? What kind of relationships are palpitating down there uh, under the ground, in the earth, in the soil? And this set me to ask me many questions and try to learn or to remember to go back to old textbooks uh, when I was a student, a graduate student, trying to remember what I learned about soil biology, and trying to visualize, because after all, as a birder, I am a visual person, trying to visualize how that hidden world would look like, and what meaning would that hidden world have for the things that to explain the things that I was looking around me. And these questions have been particularly interesting for me because they have given me the opportunity of learning or remembering many important facts. And not only that, trying to connect those facts with the things that I am most familiar with, for instance, the life of birds, the life of the animals that birds eat, the life of plants where birds uh, live and move around, and so how all these dots are connected. And the truth is that I was so amazed at what I was reading and relearning and discovering that I couldn't think of a better subject to share with other people in this celebration of the Global Biodiversity Day. So, for instance, the most important thing is to understand that soil is an extremely complex environment. It is complex both physically and chemically, because underground, the soil offers an immense surface area and an incredible supply of materials for many different organisms. It provides food, it provides water, it provides chemicals, it provides habitat for a lot of different organisms. Organisms as different as microorganisms like archaea, bacteria, protists, of course, the plant roots, the first thing that called my attention, fungi, lichens, tardigrades, rotifers, nematodes, mites, springtails, worms, ants, termites, centipedes, millipedes, woodlice, and burrowing mammals. You know, in my garden, I have a family of armadillos that come to feed on the grubs and the worms that are in the root systems of some of the plants that we cultivate in the garden. And even having those visitors and having a burrow that they have kept for a few years didn't make me think about the whole world that they were representing until I came up with the discovery of the drawings of those root systems. Just to give you an idea of how rich this world is, a single gram of soil may contain millions of individuals and several thousand species of bacteria. Those microorganisms are absolutely essential to maintain this environment. They are basic at the basis of the whole system, and that they make possible the life of many other organisms. If you go further up in the chain, you will find that for invertebrates, for instance, perhaps the numbers are not as astonishing, but even though they are not as great as for microorganisms, in a single square meter of soil, you will find, of course, in a healthy soil, you will find several hundred individuals of different invertebrate organisms. So this shows you that underground there is so much life, or even a richer life, that than what you find above ground. So all this biological activity in the ground is responsible for the behavior of the soil, is responsible for what goes on above ground, and that is because of the role that each individual organism plays. Um, Soils contain, as I just said, hundreds of thousands of microbial cells, and many of them are archaea. So these archaea, which, by the way, if you remember, were some microorganisms that were relatively recently discovered, are extremely important in terms of their capacity to thrive in very difficult environments. So they play an important role as facilitators of the functions of many other organisms in the soil. Some of them are capable of living freely, but many others are associated with other organisms, including some protozoans like ciliates, or some invertebrates like termites. Many of them are capable of thriving, like I said, in difficult chemical situations, including soils contaminated with many substances. And like I said, they are facilitators for the life of many others. Then along the chain of complexity come the bacteria. And soil microbial biomass, fungi, and other microorganisms represent between 1 to 4% of total soil carbon, which gives us an idea of the importance of microbial life for ecosystem services provided by the soil biota. Bacteria are part of chemical cycles during which they release essential elements for recycling. And the best example is the role they play making available nitrogen for plants. Bacteria are the only microbes capable of transforming nitrogen from the atmosphere into ammonium, which is the substance that is assimilable by plants. And therefore, they are essential for the life of plants and therefore for the life of organisms which depend on plants. And then there is something that is absolutely fascinating: fungi. Fungi are an extremely important component of soil life. And there are many different kinds of fungi down there. But the special kind that I like to point out is Mycorrhizas, because they are not only the most widespread symbionts in the world, but also they are responsible for something that is absolutely incredible. They have relationships with many plant species. They are capable of helping plants to communicate with each other. They are, in fact, what somebody have called like the internet, the underground internet. So they connect the root systems of many different plants and facilitate the communication among not only among different individuals of the same species of plants, but also between different plant species. And that communication is of a chemical sort. For instance, some plants are capable of communicating to others some chemical signals when they are attacked by a herbivore. Uh, and so by communicating this alarm signal, other plants can get prepared and alter their chemical functions in such a way that they get better defenses against herbivores. This is just an example of the kind of communications that goes on down there, and that is only possible through the connections provided by mycorrhizas. And these connections are, of course, they are not totally free. Plants provide different kinds of sugars that are the outcomes of the photosynthesis, um, and that the fungi get as a premium for their services as communicators. And like I said, the fungi provide these channels for communication and transport the nutrients and the chemical signals. So this is something of the magic that goes below ground, and that makes possible such a rich life. And of course, there is the world of this is the world of earthworms. Uh, I could spend the whole of the time allotted to this speech talking about earthworms. Remember that earthworms made the subject for the last um, the last book published by Charles Darwin in 1881 about the special role that they play transforming the soil, building the soil up by decomposing organic matter and producing humus and producing fertile soil for plant development. So this is perhaps the best known phenomenon that occurs in the soil, but it never stops amazing us because of the enormous potential that it has to maintain life above ground. There are many other organisms. Perhaps the most numerous of all, besides the microorganisms, are nematodes. Nematodes comes in all kinds of sizes, sorts, behaviors, and ecologies. But in the soils, nematodes can play different roles. They can be predators, for instance. They can be herbivores. They can be decomposers. But anyway, they play many different ecological roles and therefore contribute to the whole food chain below ground. There are many other smaller organisms like collembola and tardigrades and many other invertebrates, each of them playing a specific role. And even though they are tiny, difficult to see, difficult to sample, and to the human eyes, or at least to the eyes of a birder like myself, they are totally invisible. When one starts to learn a little bit about them, they are absolutely amazing. They are not only as beautiful and bizarre and interesting as the most fantastic bird, but if you start to learn about their behavior, about the things that they do down there, uh, you know the marvels of life underground really become true. Of course, there are many other organisms like rotiferans, for instance, and that depend on the water around the soil particles, and of course are very dependent on moisture. And all of these organisms are involved in creating and maintaining the soil structure and providing essential ecosystem services for humans. We depend on all these creatures. Let's not forget that. Most of these organisms cannot survive outside the soil, so it is necessary to preserve healthy soils and to maintain their diversity if we want to preserve their beneficial influence and we want to preserve what goes on above ground. Many other animals spend only part of their lives in the ground. Some of them spend only their larval stages below ground and then they emerge. But during the time that they spend down there, they play specific roles and they help to maintain the soil structure, composition, and function. So this means that there is a natural soil food web that we need to be as aware as we are of the more or better known food web around us above ground. There are all kinds of relationships among the different organisms that form part of the soil biota. There are different levels of specialization of their function, but all of these functions are essential to what happens above ground. So it is extremely important to keep that in mind if we want to maintain the ecological functions on which all of us depend. So when I look around my garden, looking for my birds, and I start to see things like the new flowers that are emerging in the trees that I have in front of my windows. Those same flowers that attract the bees and then that produce the fruits that will attract the birds. All those things are happening because there is a whole world working below ground. None of this is possible without the ecological functions underground. So I am starting to pay attention to small things that are happening and that remind me every single day of what goes on down there. First, I am starting to look more and more at leaf cutting ants, for instance. They are digging deep tunnels in the soil, taking all these materials into their deep chambers to cultivate their fungi and to contribute to the functions that are happening below ground. And of course, in the afternoons when it is sunny around here and the cicadas start to sing, uh, I remember that these animals that are singing in the tree in front of my window are just some animals that just emerged from long months or long years of their larval stage below ground, where they were feeding on plant matter and contributing to build up the fertility of the soil that makes possible my garden. So this is basically the reflection that I wanted to share with you. Um, I am I am particularly pleased to share these ideas because they have given me they have given me a great opportunity to learn about many things, about to understand that the magic of my birds, that the magic of the ecology and the behavior and the evolution that I have studied all my life, looking into the skies, looking into the canopy of the trees, is only possible because there is a whole world thriving below ground.
Thank you so much, Luis. That is such an inspiring talk that you just gave us. And I love that there's this silver lining of the pandemic that you found by looking beyond just the birds, and your absolute love of learning and what you have discovered in just the past year is absolutely inspiring. So thank you so much for sharing that with us tonight. It was really a true treat to hear all of that and how it's all so interconnected.
Thank you, Lizzie. It has been a pleasure, and I hope that many of you will get inspired to look around you a little bit more and try to challenge yourself to see the things that are not so evident and go beyond your favorite subjects to discover how rich biodiversity is in fact around yourselves.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's the perfect message to end on. So thank you so much, Luis. It was great to have you today, and I hope you continue to explore and find out new and fun, interesting things about biodiversity.
I will. No
All
doubt
right,
about it. Thank
great.
you very much.
Thanks so much, Luis.